Am I on? 1 minute warning.
Hey, man. Doing good. Yeah, light crowd today.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock. Thank you for showing up on this chilly afternoon, if you count 60s as chilly. The time is 2. I call to order the January 27th, 2026 Saddlebrook 2 Board of Directors meeting. Chuck, as I can't stand, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sherry, will you note any board or management action items for follow-up from today's meeting? Take notes on anything we put in that list. Thank you. I'd like to welcome all of our members here today. Let's begin with introductions. I think most of you know me. I'm Janine Grippo, President, and can we start with Darren?
I'm Darren Shaw, COO.
Brad Nickum, Treasurer.
Chuck Hill, Vice President.
Larry Santor, Board Member.
Joe Stayskell, Assistant Treasurer.
Dean Noble, Director.
Sherry Groupie, Secretary. Sherry Groupie, Secretary.
Charlie Shawless, Recording Secretary.
Okay, thank you. You can see on the next slide, we have it looks like a very full agenda, but I don't expect it to take, the whole 2 hours. It depends on how some of the conversations go. And I'd like to start with the approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes to approve this afternoon. December 16th, 2025 board meeting. Did all the board members read the minutes? Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular board meeting from December 16th, 2025.
Do I have a second? I'll second that. Sherry seconded, even though her mic isn't working. Okay. Any board discussion? Members, if you were able to read the drafts online, any member discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All opposed? 1 abstain? Who's abstaining? Oh, you weren't there. Oh, that's right. Sorry. It seems like you've been around forever. Okay, we have 2 abstains because they weren't part of the board in December. Thank you. No, I did not take in oxycodone yet. Okay, the second one is the January 5th, 2026 board orientation. Everybody had a chance to read those minutes, and I think you were all there. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the January 5th board minutes as written.
Do I have a second? Chuck seconds. Any discussion among the board members? Discussion from anyone in the membership? All in favor? Any opposed? I think that was unanimous. All right. January 6th, 2026, the board organization meeting that was also held in the Sonoran Room. Did everyone read the minutes from that meeting? Okay.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the January 6, 2026 Board Organization Meeting minutes.
All right. Do I have a second? Somebody holding a mic might want to second it.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion among the board? How about our members? All right, let's call for the motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Well, that got through. It's on to the president's comments, and so I will start with, I don't know if anybody knows a gentleman by the name of Vern McLennan. He had broad experience as an author, speaker, associate pastor, broadcaster, and musician. Very talented. He wrote the book, Wise Words and Quotes. I liked this quote and thought I'd bring it today. What the new year brings to you will depend a great deal on what you bring to the new year. This new year, I'm bringing a repaired ankle, and I hope to get back to my normal routine by May or June, and to be oxy-free in a few days. As we begin this new year, the board has identified both high-level and specific goals to achieve. Darren and his team developed SMART objectives in alignment with these goals. What are SMART objectives? Well, many of you in corporate America probably know this one. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And so the relevant part would be, do they connect to the board goals that we passed at our organizational meeting? We had, those 4 high-level goals. In the latter half of my career, the practice of setting goals and SMART objectives for the coming year was common practice. Setting stretch goals, which means they're not guaranteed, meant that not all goals would be met in that calendar year. And it's not my expectation that every one of the objectives for our association will be met. But the management and staff, board, committees, and other groups will bring their A game in this new year. We have some tough challenges set before us, which will require change, not a favorite word among most of us. Please know that we are all working toward continuous improvement, and I am grateful to both the staff and those volunteers who are assisting in the governance of this association. You can help in this process by participating in focus groups. There will be notices seeking your input. Learning more about the work of some committees to see if you'd like to join one now or in the future. Continuing to participate and give feedback to SPOT surveys or the annual member survey, which will come out later this year. And please bring your patience to the table. Things take longer than you think. Your presence here today is a good start, and I thank you for being here. I'm now going to ask Darren to give us an update.
Okay. I didn't change out last month's PowerPoint in my packet there, so I'll have to look at the screen. So excuse me if I turn around. So a few things to report on. The goats are in Unit 25 right now. If you've had a chance to take a look at that area off of Mountain View, it's cleaning up pretty well. I think the goats and the Cam 5 team together, that combination's doing some great work. We're going to keep the goats through the end of February, and then we're going to take a break. I think we've budgeted, four times a year we budgeted for the goats. So we'll bring them back probably late spring and get them started again. Excuse me. Mountain View renovation project is in the final stages right now. The work on the 2 bathroom remodels was pretty much just complete. There might be a few little punch list items. The flooring that we've been waiting on to finish up the hallway should be here this week, and the floor crew's coming out Friday. Should be a one-day job. One-day job, Bill? Two-day job. But we should have that hallway complete late this week, early next week. And then most of all the renovation work has been complete at this point then. We're just waiting for the delivery of the furniture, which is scheduled to be here between March 1st and March 15th. In terms of budget, I think Bill McGinn reported the numbers to me on the renovation project side of it, and I think we're right on budget. It's not been any big surprises. There's been a few change orders along the way, but nothing significant. Wall painting continues in Unit 15 and 17. Work has started on the tennis courts. It's really underway. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to see how they put those post-tension slabs in. I never really saw one get constructed. It's a pretty big project. It's not surprising that it was so expensive because it's a lot of work. So they have the slabs in now. They're waiting for the slabs to cure before they can coat them and stripe them and do all that. They're working on the fencing. They're putting electrostatic paint on all of the rails, which is good. And those tennis courts will look like brand new probably in about 6 weeks. Master package of insurance policies was renewed. It increased from 267,000 to 311,000. The real benefit there is our main carrier, Cincinnati Insurance, is giving us a 3-year rate lock. So we'll be locked into those rates, and we won't see those types of increases next year. The exit sign on Edwin Road is pretty much complete, I think, at this point. It's a nice improvement. I think that's pretty much most of the monuments we've completed now. Project specifications are in development for the main entrance signage of Oracle and Saddlebrook. And once those get done, we'll bid that out, and we'll see the best approach. There's some work that's definitely needed out at that front entrance with the walls and the lettering. Preserve Men's Fitness Rooms restroom will be closed 126, 128 for retiling in the shower stall. Mountain View Hallway will be closed January 29th and 30th. Talked about that earlier. Preserve Golf Course Forward Tee Project is scheduled to start May 25th. That's been signed off on by the Golf Committee. We're in the contract development stage of that right now. And once we get that contract back from the vendor and get that all signed off, we'll set that schedule. May 25th, about a 3-week project, they say. Association's primary package of insurance policies was approved on February 1st. Patio heaters are being installed on the Preserve patio. We just contracted for that. We want to get those in by Valentine's Day. We are booked solid for Valentine's Day up at the Preserve. We actually started booking out on the patio. And we talked about patio heaters out there before. It definitely would open up some more opportunities when the weather's a little cooler for outside entertainment and dining. So, like I said, we signed that contract yesterday, and everything's been ordered, and we should get them in here in the next couple weeks. All community defibrillators, there are 11. They're scheduled for replacement in February. That was signed off on. The average home sale price, $666. There were 16 in December. Wellness Wednesdays. Hey, it's a new program that Jeanette put into place here at Desert View as part of the fitness programs. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. I've heard some really good things about the programs that she's making part of that program. New Golden Hour Menu Edition is now being offered at the Preserve. If you haven't been up there, our new chef is really starting to get dialed in right now. She's offering some new menu items. You might want to give that a try. And the state land purchase is in the appraisal pipeline. Might not see the numbers until March. That's the last email that we got. So as soon as we get those numbers, the board will have them, and we'll see what Plan B becomes at that point. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Any questions from the board? Okay. Oh, I don't know why. Terry is going to bring us the director of, as the director of finance, the 2025 year-end December financial highlights. Do remember this is preliminary until the audit is complete. Take it away, Terry.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The first slide we're going to have up here is our cash and investments at December 31st. So cash and investments and operating account were $4.5 million in the operating fund, excuse me. In reserve, we had $7.6 million, and in capital improvement fund was $1.4 million. So total cash and investment is $13,616,000, which is about 5.4% better than it was this time last year, or in December last year. Okay, next slide. This slide shows our reserve spend. So the left column shows which complex had work done. We had an adjusted budget of $4,481,000, and our actual came in at $3.8 million. Our other CapEx expenditures had an adjusted budget of $765,000, and actual came in at $555,000. So this gives us a total CapEx budgeted at $5.2 million, and we have spent $4.3 million of that. Okay, next slide. What I'm reporting right now is only operations, okay, only operations results. So operations for the month of December were budgeted at revenue was budgeted at $1.6 million. Actual came in at 1.4, which is $170,000 less than what was budgeted. Food and beverage was $65,000 less than budget, and golf was $94,000 less than budget. The month of December had a net subsidy of $196,000 and on a budget of net income of $118,000. Next slide, please. It died out. There we go. So this slide, we're turning to year-to-date performance for the whole year. We look at the sources of revenue. So we look at the sources of revenue that we've collected, and it's not up on this screen, but we have dues collected of $11 million, $11,573,000. $8,115,000 of that goes to our operations. $3,458,000 goes toward reserves. CIF fees collected were $681,000. Interest revenue is $460,000. Miscellaneous revenue was $316,000, and our amenity revenue is $8,290,000. So that gives us a total revenue of $21,322,000. And again, these numbers I'm showing up here are just what our operations have done. Okay, so I just wanted to give you an idea that we bring in a substantial amount of revenue. So for year to date on operations, we had budgeted revenue at $17,785,000. Actual came in at $16,792,000, which is less than budget by $990,000. Restaurant, golf, theater were the big misses to what the budget was. If you look further down, our operations expenses they came in at $16,394,000. It's $1 million less than what we had budgeted. So I think this shows that the managers are making a great effort in trying to control costs. We just need to get our revenues up. Net income for the year is $398,000. And is $86,000 better than what we had budgeted. Okay, next slide. This last slide shows where your dues are allocated. Year to date, $3,600 per rooftop of dues have been allocated. Restaurants were $106, which is 3%. Reserve is $1,171, which is 33%. Theater made a little bit of money, so they didn't get anything allocated. Patrol was $107, which is 3%. Common area maintenance, $437, or 12%. Roads is $125, or 3%. And keep in mind, we have like 52 miles of roads that are being taken care of privately. So that's quite a bit if you compare it to our neighbors, they only have like 26 miles of roads. So quite a bit of roads. Our lifestyle amenity was $35. Facilities, $539, which was 15%. G&A, $800, which is 22%. Fitness, $97. Golf was $183, which is 5% of what the dues were. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Okay, Brad, would you provide your comments to the year end?
Hopefully, does this work? No. Darren's got the good mic. Obviously, the revenue for golf and food and beverage, theater to a lesser degree, were disappointing. We have already taken into account new assumptions for 2026. We're paring down our assumed revenue, particularly on golf, and Darren and his team have already identified and implemented or are soon to implement expense reductions relative to the budget amounting to, in rough numbers, $600,000. About a third of that relates to, a little less than a third of that relates to insurance overall. And the rest primarily is headcount spread throughout the enterprise. So we're trying to be proactive this year. And obviously Darren and his team are going to be focusing on the food and beverage, getting that revenue headed back in the right direction. I see Matt Cambeck sitting in the back. He now is in charge of the golf committee, and he's taken the bull by the horns, and he is looking at revenue issues involving golf. Mountain View in particular, the tee sheet's packed. There's not much way to significantly generate more revenue at Mountain View. So thinking through some considerations is what Matt and his committee are working on over the coming 2, 3, 4 months. The last comment I would make is when Terry is talking about operating profit, several of us, this may sound elementary, but I still want to point it out. The operating fund does not include 30% of our POA annual dues, nor does it include any of the CIF revenue or any of the interest income that is being earned in funds that are housed in the reserve and CIF. That all said, net, our expectations for the year of generating more pre-depreciation consolidated net income is still in the ballpark of what we were hoping for, and we are generating more than is needed to keep up with our average run rate needs for reserve maintenance, and the budget for 2026 is to far exceed those cash flow needs. So even with the disappointments on revenue on those two profit centers, or better said, cost centers, we should all feel comfortable that not only are we willing and able to meet our financial needs for reserves and being able to maintain all of our assets, the outlook is extremely positive moving forward. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Brad. The next thing we're going to look at are a few charters. We have a couple of charters we want to look at once again. So let's flip to the next page. One more, there you go. We've made a few formatting. This is the audit committee charter. We've made a few formatting adjustments and revised the classification from an advisory committee to an executive committee based on the definitions we approved at our 1/6/26 organizational meeting. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the revised audit committee charter as proposed.
Do I have a second? Brad seconded. Board discussion. Member discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It carries. All right. The next one on our list is the Finance Committee Charter. We've made a few revisions and reformatted it into the charter template used for all other advisory committees. So do I have a motion for this one?
I so move.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, Chuck seconds. Discussion among the board. Members? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That's everyone in. The next one is the Unit Rep Communication Committee. You'll recall at our December meeting that this charter was not yet finalized, and now the committee has been classified as a communication committee based on the definitions we approved at our 1/6/26 organizational meeting. That means the URC is exempt from having all 28 voting members approved by the board. Their charter describes the process for appointing replacement members there. We only approve the chair, which we did at the 1/6/26 organizational meeting. Do I have a motion to approve this charter? She doesn't have a mic.
I make a motion that we approve the Unit Rep Committee Charter.
Do I have a second? Anybody with a mic? Okay, Joe's got his hand up. Joe seconded without the mic. Discussion among the board. How about the members? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? No opposed. Okay. That moves us on to the next piece of business. Now that we have a finance charter we like, we're going to look at the Finance Committee chairperson. And at our 1/6/26 organizational meeting, Chris was appointed to the Finance Committee. However, we had not named a chair of the committee at that time. Subsequent to that meeting, after the 1/15/26 Finance Committee meeting, the liaisons met with Chris, and Chris has agreed to serve as chair. Do I have a motion?
I make a
so
motion to
move.
approve Kristen Hendricks as chairperson of the Finance Committee as proposed.
I second.
Okay, that was quick. Any comments or questions from the board? You saw his resume when we voted him onto the committee, and okay. Anybody from the membership? Okay, let's take the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Did you put your hand up, Chuck? I didn't see. You were a for or against? You're for. Okay. That's unanimous, Charlie. Now, a little piece of business. Lucky Chris. I think he likes to go by the name Chris. When at our 1/6/26 organizational meeting, we appointed most of the members of two executive committees, the Policy Executive Committee and the Audit Executive Committee. We needed to wait until the finance chair was appointed to finalize the members. Now that we've just appointed Chris as the finance chair, we can add him to these two committees. Do I have a motion?
I'm told I'm supposed to make this motion, so I so move.
Who's my second? Joe is my second. Comments from the board? How about from the members? Seeing none, let's take the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right. Also, the next discussion point is the Food and Beverage Task Force statement of work. And did everyone get the revision I emailed yesterday to you? We had the spelling of a member's name wrong. We've corrected that spelling. Okay. And again, at the 1/6/26 meeting, organizational meeting, we appointed the 2 liaisons to this task force, but we were not ready to move forward with the statement of work for that. So do I have a motion to approve the statement of work?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the modified statement of work that we've worked on with Darren. Second.
Okay. Chuck is our second. Any discussion from the board? How about the membership?
I'd like to say one
Oh,
thing.
sorry. Okay.
Normally, when you have an area of weakness like food and beverage has been in the past, and you bring in a new COO, it takes some time for the COO to identify all of these things and start making the changes needed. From my point of view, I can agree with this policy here, but I think it's premature. I would say that the COO should be given a little more time to implement his management to correct everything that was wrong, because there were many things wrong. And that's all I have to say.
And I would just point out that we took that into consideration in the second draft. What the remarks you made at the organization meeting were similar, and we've revamped that so that we are focusing on the member experience and getting member feedback to see, get some ideas. Well, how can we get more people to come? What are they looking for? And things of that nature. So I think we handled that with the revision. We do know that this task force will not be getting into operations. That's been our mantra. So we have a motion, we have a second, we have board comments. Do we have comments from the floor? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? No, everyone, it's a unanimous. Okay, the next set are going to be equally fun. We now have to address 6 items that had been conditionally approved at previous board meetings and were out to the membership for 21-day comment period and/or Finance Committee review. So one of these goes all the way back to something we approved in October. And the first such thing in which we put out for 21-day comment in December are the bylaw changes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we formally approve the revisions to the bylaws as proposed.
Do I have a second? Sherry seconding, even without a mic. Any discussion from the board? How about the members? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's everyone. You did yes, right? I can't see you over my right shoulder. Sorry. That's good. The next one is the reserve plan and fund policy. This is the one that we conditionally approved in October. We took some 21-day comment from members, and Brad had suggested that it have a change or two and that the Finance Committee look at it. And the Finance Committee looked at it at their December 18th meeting and agreed to the changes that are now before us. So do I have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to formally approve the reserve plan and fund policy as proposed.
Do I have a second?
I guess I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? How about our members? All right. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. The next one was the policy that went out one of the new policy drafts that went out in December, the new member club policy. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the member club policy.
Do I have a second? Joe is going to second. Any discussion among the board? Larry? Okay. Anything from our members? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's no. Okay. That one passes. The next one is one we did in December, online privacy policy.
I make a motion that we formally approve the proposed policy rewrite for the online privacy policy.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion among the board? How about the membership? You're making my job easy. I'll get this cast back on the scooter in no time. All righty, so let's call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's none opposed, Charlie. The next one is the procurement policy. Who wants to handle that one for me?
Give me a second, sorry. Thank you. This has gone through the 21-day feedback period, and it is now up for a vote. I move that the board approve this policy.
Any second? Joe is seconding, if that's a real word. Any discussion among the board? How about our membership? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you. All right, we have, I think this is the final one of the 6. It's the revenue billing and receipts policy that was rewritten and out for 21 days since December. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion we formally approve the policy rewrite for the revenue billing and receipt policy as proposed.
Any comments from the board? Oh, sorry, second. Okay, Larry seconded. Now, any comments? All right, how about our members? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, none are opposed, Charlie. All right. Now we move on to Firewise. We discussed this a bit at the organizational meeting and said we would need to, this was one of the things we had to get moving with. And so we don't have any votes on this today. We do have an update and some next steps. So who's handling that for me?
I am pleased to announce that we have a chair for our Firewise committee, and she is off and running. Her name is PJ Cathay, and she has taken 14 different communities in Arizona to Firewise recognition. So we are fortunate to have her skill level and excited to have her on board. We did have interviews all last week. We had a great turnout, a lot of applicants, and 4 additional people have been selected to work on the committee. The committee will be getting together next week is the plan if schedules work out. This was all decided yesterday, so it's still quite new. And we will be moving forward. Our hope is to be able to submit for, I guess, initial review, to submit our application by March, and hopefully apply for Firewise recognition by November of this year and have it before year end. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. You're going to hear a lot about Firewise. We're going to need a lot of support from the community, and we will try and answer questions as best we can, and you will be seeing a lot of the Firewise group.
And we do have a draft statement of work that Darren and I will review with the liaisons and the new chair before moving forward. We'll meet the new chair together, okay? All right, thank you for that update. The next topic is related to rules and regulations and the whole, I think it just, was it November or December when we talked about alcohol? Well, whichever it was. Obviously that triggered a desire to clarify some rules in the rules and regs. So Larry, are you handling that?
Well, in the past, last year, we came up with the idea that in some of these venues where our liquor license didn't cover the property, that you could have clubs or whoever come in with their own food and beverage. And we passed that. Unfortunately, our rules had a little statement in there that said section 6.02, sports and fitness facilities, this is not allowed. So this is nothing more than a slight correction. We should have gotten it in the beginning, and we missed it. So this is just a reclassification of that, saying that things are allowed, and that's what we're voting on, just a correction. It's not a real rules change. It was changed back then. We didn't fix the verbiage.
Okay,
So I'll make the motion that we make this change.
Do I have a second? Gene has his hand up as second. Okay. Do we have any comments from the board? How about our membership? Bruce has a comment or question. Thank you for waving so I could see you over my right shoulder.
I just wanted to say, that's great. When you make the change, can you fix the typo that's on the first page of the cover where regulations is misspelled? It's been that way for over a year.
Sherry, will you take that as an action item for the board to pass on to the chair of the...
And then you can take off the part about the bridge the gap. That was old news.
Thank you, Bruce. We need you as a proofreader. Okay. Any other comments, questions, discussion from our members? All right. Let's call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. The next topic is a topic that I'm going to ask Darren to lead because he's been hearing from members about something about speed limits on Clubhouse Drive.
So that's correct. I've been approached by a few members asking us to consider adjusting the speed limit on Clubhouse Drive. And you know, as a private community, we really don't need to get approval from any agency because our roads are private. So we don't need approval from Pinal County. We don't need approval from the state. It's under our authority to decide whether or not it makes sense to adjust the speed limit. So everybody knows the speed limit on Clubhouse Drive is 25 miles an hour. I've heard that it needs to be raised to 30. I've heard that it should be raised to 35. I've also heard that on one of the social media sites, there was some talk about getting a petition signed. So we know there's some people out there that are interested in adjusting that speed limit. I don't think you ever want to adjust a speed limit just because people or members think it's a good idea. I think there needs to be a more scientific approach because there's liabilities associated with changing a speed limit. You just don't want to go out there and eyeball it up and say, oh yeah, let's just increase it to 35. I think in my personal experience, professional experience, when I've worked with speed study adjustments, they've always included a formal speed study conducted by an engineering firm qualified to do this type of work. And we reached out to the engineering firm that we work with for our road reserve study, Kimley Horn, and their price was $18,000 to conduct a speed study. That would give us information to decide whether or not it makes sense to adjust that speed limit. I had the opportunity with Ray Kuhn, the general manager, a couple weeks ago. We drove the road 35 miles an hour, and I think it's a little too fast. And in my own opinion, I don't think it's safe for the community to adjust that speed limit. Whether or not there's enough support from the community to influence the board to make a decision to pursue that, that remains to be seen. But 35 miles an hour on that road is pretty fast, and most people are going to generally drive at least 5 miles over the speed limit. So now you're talking 40 miles an hour, and I just don't think it's the right thing to do. And I can't justify the expense with our focus on hitting our numbers in 2026. We're trying to save everywhere we can. That makes sense. And here, I think saving that $18,000 makes sense. So, my position is probably a no on this whole initiative.
And I'd like to let you know that I went out to the site where they were doing an online survey or petition, and as of Sunday, they were trying to get to 500 people, and as of Sunday, they had 214 people that signed the petition. My concern is, are those 214 people members of HOA 2? There's no way of knowing with this online survey whether that's 214 HOA 2 members, or it's the postman who wants to go quickly down the road, or whatever.
Janine, what was the?
It's called change.org petition.
So they want to change, they want to raise it? Is
They
that what
want
they're
it,
asking?
there's a petition to raise it to 35, from 25 to 35. It was posted by the same gentleman, I believe, who's been contacting Darren. And I, for one, who live on the off of Cherry, I have to come off Cherry Wheat. Just making a left turn out of there is difficult, and at the current speed, and some of my neighbors have almost been run over in the walkway that is supposed to be with the yellow lights flashing, please stop, and they don't. So, any board members have any comments they want to add to this?
I think it's a terrible idea to raise it from where it is. I ride a bike pretty much every other morning, and I come off of Sandcrest down just over here onto Mountain View, and in the early morning you have a lot of elderly people, sometimes walking their dog, sometimes no dog, and they're using that crosswalk, and it's awkward at the current speed limit. And Darren's right. At the current 35, people are going 40. And the problem with Clubhouse and even Mountain View Boulevard, it's a throughway. Much of the traffic that comes in on Clubhouse at the bottom here, they end up going to Mountain View and then just out of Mountain View towards Del Largo or whatever the name of the street is. And then they're either going to HOA 1 or they're going to the unincorporated areas back there. I really don't care how many people put their survey. It's nonsensical to me, because you go up to 35, you're going to have people going 45 miles an hour through there.
Larry?
I did my own little test. It was dark out and late at night, so there wasn't any traffic anywhere, and all the lights in the homes were shut off. I went 30 down there, and at 30, I could say, yeah, that seemed pretty safe through the curves and things. But at 35, it wasn't safe from my point of view, it wasn't safe at all. So you raised it to 30 and people are doing 35, you're in an unsafe area. If you make it to 35 and you're going over that, we're just asking for a disaster down there. So, you know, I gotta agree that the 25 limit, especially for those that are doing 30, is probably a good speed.
Any other comments? Gene?
If you drive
Whoops,
from
Chuck.
Mountain View all the way down to Edwin, going 35 instead of 25, you save all of about a minute. So
Thank you.
is it really worth it for less
Thank
than a
you.
minute?
That's where I was going. I kind of support Brad and Darren and everybody else. This is kind of like a ridiculous thing from my perspective. And why would we ever entertain this without studies that are going to cost us money and also just, you know, create more of a hazard for our residents? And what's the rush? 90% of the people or 100% of the people are retired. They need that extra minute.
Anyone else up here before I go to the, oh, I guess Sherry wants.
She wants to drive fast, so.
I wanted it 50. No, I would agree. It's actually less than a minute. You save almost 40 seconds. To spend $18,000 to save 40 seconds. And I've sat there and watched people at that stop sign because I'm on the appeals committee, and a number of people run that stop sign at 25 miles an hour. I do not want to know what happens when they run it at 35 or 40. It would be a danger. It's 40 seconds difference in the time. And we have not only the cost of the study, but I imagine there's signage, et cetera, that has to be replaced. And we're not gaining anything. That's not dollars well spent, in my opinion, and certainly increases the safety hazard.
And we have a golf cart path crossing between the 5th and 6th hole as well.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many crosswalks and, you know, distractions. It's a non-starter. Thank you.
Okay, well, I also like to hear, Joe, did you have any comments or?
I'm completely opposed to it. I do not believe there's no need for the speed limit to be raised.
And how about my, my members? Anybody want to add to the discussion?
Matt Cambick, Unit 49, Lot 147. I want to congratulate you all for the common sense that you have demonstrated here this afternoon. Jeannie and I are members of Unit 49. I can tell you that we're the young people in Unit 49. And as Brad pointed out in the morning, that's when the elderly folks get out and they do their walk. You have to cross Clubhouse Drive to go down to the gym. An awful lot of our neighbors cross that street to go down. You pointed out about 5 to 6. Somebody said this is a non-starter. Anybody with any common sense that knows what risk management is knows this is a bad idea.
Hey,
Thank you.
Hey, Matt, how old is Marge when she's, our Marge friend who's running out? 93. We don't want her to get hit. Okay, I think, any other members? All right, that brings us to a presentation. I'm going to invite, I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly, or you can correct me, Delays. Okay, you have to correct me when you get here. I'll give you a little background. This presentation is related to a member initiative which has been underway in HOA 1 for some time now. And this presentation is a concept for future consideration by HOA 2. Can you tell me how to pronounce your name? Oops.
It's a hard one. Nobody gets it right unless they're French Canadian. It's Delise.
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 Delise. Okay, so nice to meet you, Delise.
You too.
Please go forward.
Yep. So, as she mentioned, I'm here today to kind of talk about a project that's been ongoing in HOA 1, and we're really hoping that we can see this creative process, beautification process brought to HOA 2. and I'll give you some reasons why. So if you look at this slide here, many of you are familiar with the Lizzie that's on Ridgeview Boulevard. That was actually done by the Pottery Group. So these are examples of artwork that's currently in HOA 1 that are done by our resident artists. And then more recently, they've added the same group, the Pottery Group, who kind of started this whole process, has done, I think it's called Roadie, down at the Roadrunner Grill. And then more, and also recently, within the last like 6 to 8 months, there's 2 murals that have gone up along Ridgeview Boulevard. And we've got one more that's going to be installed. It's not a mural, it's actually a sculpture that's being done by the Glass Club that's going to be at HOA 1 up at the front door. So that tells you a little bit about where we're going with this and what we'd like to kind of look at doing here in HOA 2. So there's a lot of benefits to this. And so let's go to the next slide. Beautification in a brook is what we're calling this. It enhances the beauty of the community and it boosts property value. And there's a wealth of research on why art in a community boosts property value, and I do have some of that with me. A relatively low cost of way to enhance our community. It showcases the vast community of artists that we have, and I'll show you in the next slide, give you an idea how many, and this is kind of just scratching the surface. It really engages the community residents in the arts, not just the artists themselves, but the people that really love the arts and support the arts. And it builds pride in our community. So the HO1 beautification program has been ongoing for a while, started really with that Lizzie the Lizard from the Pottery Group. And many of the current artists that are doing this artwork are actually from HOA 2. And of course, they'd love to see their artwork in HOA 2. So I'm going to give you a little bit, next slide, a little bit about this discovery process. I was actually contacted by the Property and Roads Committee at HOA 1. Mario talked to me about, we've got this nice corridor around Ridgeview Boulevard, and I'm just talking about the murals here, but there's a lot more potential than this. He said, you know, we've got all these walls, they're kind of a blank canvas, and they're not so pretty right now. What could we do? So I basically engaged then several of the creative groups here around the community, and because I'm a member of several of them, we put together a brainstorming session. At that first session, there were about 17 people from the photography group, and you look at the numbers here, how many are in these groups. That's just scratching the surface of how many photographers are actually in this community. Those are just people that are members. The Fine Arts Guild, which Karen Brungart, who is somewhere in here back there, is also a part of this team. She's actually a former president of the Fine Arts Guild, and I'm also a member of the Fine Arts Guild. The Glass Club, the Pottery Group, and the Fiber Arts Group, which is huge, over 400 members. So that's, again, those are just people that belong to the clubs. When we got together to brainstorm, we kind of really quickly, because this was an outside installation, decided, well, maybe Fiber Arts is just not the right fit, because this is an outside installation and fiber just doesn't hold up in our environment. The Pottery Group was actually very busy at the time doing an indoor installation in the Roadrunner Grill using pottery and working on Roadie, who is now installed. And so we whittled down to, at that point, to saying, as a group, the Fine Arts Club and the Fiber Arts Group were the 2 groups that really should be thinking about this outdoor installation or murals along Ridgeview Boulevard. So we then went to our clubs, those 2 clubs, and said, please submit ideas and artwork or photography that you think would be good. And we had a theme, which was basically the Southwest, and said, give us your ideas, give us some concepts. So they did. They gave us almost 50 different images to select from. Then the group got a little bit smaller, and we actually went through those images with a very sensitive eye, thinking about the community, thinking about how they would be received, especially artwork, and we culled it down to the 2 that you saw on that first slide. Now, next slide, please. A little bit of research had to be done then. What's the best way to do a mural? And you've all probably seen the mural that was done on the electrical box in HOA 2, which actually HOA 2 came to the Fine Arts Guild and said, can you help us? There was a mural that had faded away, and so Eva Langdell stepped up and said, yeah, I'll donate my artwork and my time, I'll paint it. All you have to do is pay for the paint. And I'm not going to go into costs on this. There is a slide at the end. If you'd like to talk about costs, I can do that. But basically, this isn't the best option. And we talk to people who are professional muralists, and it starts to degrade at about 5 years. And so then somebody's got to be repainting it. Is the artist still here? And plus, it's somebody outdoors painting in our environment, 104 degrees, on a rough terrain that's rocky, not such a good option. And it also limits us just to paint. So we all, right away, we eliminated the photography club. We didn't want to do that. So then we looked at, well, what if we print on a surface like an aluminum composite material, ACM it's called, and that's nice. That's actually some good pros to that. One is you can be doing artwork that's a little bit more delicate, like a pastel or a watercolor. You can be doing photography. Basically what they need is a digital file, and you print it, and it's got a UV coating on it. But the limitation here is, again, this all starts to degrade at about 5 years. And so there's pluses and minuses to that, a little bit more expensive, but still not a bad option. But number 3, switch the slide, please. Yeah, so 3 is by far the clear choice, and this is what we ended up using. This is actually the same process, taking a digital file, a picture of either the artwork, fiber arts, whatever, or using that photography that was given us and printing it on a tile. The tile is then kiln fired, and it is permanent and can last as long as you want it to. The largest tile is what we went with. We're 12 by 12 inches. The nice thing about this is if for some reason one tile gets damaged, this is printed in a grid type of format. And so if you damage one tile, you can actually just have that tile printed again, which is really nice. It's easy to install. You're installing tile. So we have an expert in HOA1 that is a tile specialist, and so he loves doing it. He said it's very simple to do. This also gives us that creative flexibility of doing a photograph, doing a watercolor, really doesn't matter. Whatever you can photograph, you can put on the tile. And so, the next slide. So, this got switched, supposed to be switched, but can you go to the next slide and I might have it come back? Yeah, pros and cons. So, a lot of pros to this. One is it enhances the beauty throughout the community. It does boost home values, and there's just a wealth of research on this that supports that over many, many years. It keeps this community up to date and attractive for resale. It also differentiates us. So it really sets us apart from other homeowner type communities, and it showcases our support for and by the community artists. It demonstrates we are a community of very talented people, and I can tell you, I moved in here 6 years ago. I'm an artist, a professional artist. I moved in here because of the creative possibilities. So that was my reason for moving here. And there's a lot of people I've heard say that. So it also demonstrates that it's a creative community. We have a lot of talented people here. And most cities and communities recognize the benefit of artistic beautification. So now if I could have you go back one slide. Yes, I'm not going to talk about prices, but what I wanted to tell you was that this is a very low entry point of cost to do this, because the HOA1 Saddlebrook Fiber Arts Group, not Fiber Arts, Fine Arts Group, has said we will do our normal fundraisers, our arts, and we'll actually pay for a tile printing. So then the only costs really associated are actually the installation and the manpower and some grout. So very minimal costs, and we've actually, as a team, the Beauty in the Brook team, are working on a marketing plan to do future installations, because I'd like to see 3 or 4 of these done throughout the community, not just externally on walls, but also internal processes as well. So looking at getting the community involved with donations and a real fun type of organization, marketing this, building awareness, and getting everyone involved. So really low point of entry costs. And so if you skip to, there you go. So thank you for your time. And if you want to go into price, I've got one more slide. It'll give you the cost of the murals. But this is above and beyond just murals. We really want to have you consider doing artwork in other places as well. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from board members?
I can just see that Roadrunner down on the entrance from Edwin on our monument. As soon as you showed that, I'm going, wow, I can visualize that. Looked great.
questions.
Any other comments or questions? How about from our membership?
I can tell you it's been really well received. When the first mural, which was Ellen Victor's, it's a picture of Catalina State Park, went up. Actually, it wasn't even noticed. As big as that mural is, people didn't see it for 2 weeks. And finally, somebody put it out on Nextdoor. Hey, what do you think about this? There were 83 responses. Only 3 were negative out of 83. One was because she didn't want to pay for anything. And the others 2 were more like, I just think artwork should be in the home kind of thing. But other than that, everybody was very positive about it. There were a few cut from like Eagle Crest and weighing in, but less than 10 people. So we heard really well about it.
So I guess process-wise, I'm trying to understand. I mean, this is a neat idea. It creates more beauty and everything.
Yeah.
Here,
They're not asking for a lot of money. Is this just something that Darren needs to program in and see whether he can manage it? Because it's really a process.
Yes, I totally agree. And we've got this little team together, and I think what we can do is bring to you. Here's, we would go out and ask for another call for art and photography, and then say, as a team or a committee would look at that and say, yes, we like this. Let's move it forward, and then we would help whoever, if you have a property and roads group here, somebody like.
well, I can say
What kind of time frame are we looking at? So I see the at HOA 1, the Roadrunner that's out there. How long does it take from beginning to that thing to go fully live like it did?
So the murals actually took, I want to say 4 to 5 weeks to get them printed and shipped here. And they're heavy, so there was a little cost involved with the shipping. But really, then we still have some landscaping to do. It took him a day to install it, not even a full day, and then he had to come back and do the grouting on another day. So, and that was when the first one was done, it was 105. So he was in a hurry to get it done.
So this, let's talk about, it's a concept, and it originally came to the Facilities Planning Committee. I knew you were going to go there, Jean. However, it did not fit the scope of Facilities Planning Committee because it's not a project per se to alter an existing facility, build an extra room, repurpose a court for cornhole. It is really a program, and my recommendation is that we all think about this now that we've seen the presentation, talk a little bit and figure out I can't think of a single committee that this would go under or come to. It's not fitness, wellness, and recreation. It's not rules and regs, not ALC. So yeah, Bruce is already crossing us, so whatever. So I think we wanted this presentation today. We'll take it into consideration and talk amongst ourselves and see what we think is the best avenue to pursue. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And the Fine Arts Show is coming up, and it'll be down at Mountain View on the 20th and the 21st. You'll actually see some of the artists that are involved. So stop by.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for presenting to us.
I appreciate it.
Janine, I have a question. You showed 2 different types. You showed the murals, which are the photographs and the tiles. And then you also showed the mosaics, like of the Roadrunner.
Yeah.
Very different pieces, certainly.
Yes.
And what would be the difference in costs, like from the Roadrunner to a mural?
Well, both the Roadrunner and the murals, the artists in all these installations are donating their artwork and donating their time if it's needed. So like with the pottery group, they actually produce that, and the only cost is really putting it on the wall. And it's a basic tile type installation. There was some prep done to the wall, I think, to actually knock down some of the texture, but it can also be removed. So, if something was not working or you needed to change it, you can.
Okay. And what's the expectation on life?
The murals lasting longer than we will.
Okay.
You think about tile work, Pompeii and places, murals or tile can last indefinitely, but it's not a permanent thing. Like I said, you can remove tile. So it's pretty nice application. And it's so photorealistic today, the technology is such that you can get incredible detail, but keep in mind most of these are at a distance. We've got an installation we're looking at when we get the new facility done at HOA 1 that would be much closer. So this is perfect for both situations.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time. All right, we've come to the member comments period. Do we have anyone who wants to come up and speak? Here comes Bob. Okay. Please give us your name, your unit, and your lot if you know it. Can you put the 2-minute timer on for us?
Unit 36, but I'm here today as chair of Salford Public Affairs Commission. And
I can't hear you.
Just talk into it.
closer? There, sorry. My name is Jan Howard, and I'm here today as chair of Saddlebrook Public Affairs Commission. And I'm here to thank the volunteers from both HOA 1 and HOA 2 who carried the Firewise project forward. As you know, the board authorized SPAC to work on Firewise last year with the objective to create 2 Firewise advisory committees, 1 in each HOA. And as you also know, hopefully folks in the audience know, Firewise is a national program that helps high-risk communities like Saddlebrook reduce wildfire danger through education, defensible space practices, and coordinated mitigation planning. It is especially important to Saddlebrook, given our desert environment and elevated wildfire risk. SPAC formed a 3-person subcommittee last year to identify national Firewise requirements. Those folks also worked with the Arizona Department of Forestry on zone mapping for both HOAs, and they established a baseline so each HOA can move toward Firewise recognition. The subcommittee also created WiseEye, the little owl that you see in messaging, and papers and the magazines, and drafted the recommended charter, committee structure, job descriptions, interview materials, and volunteer announcement. That team was Lynn Denning of HOA 2, she was really the lead, Sam Miller of HOA 2, and Rob Emmett of HOA 1. Those folks spent 7 months of their lives and produced a roadmap each HOA can now use to move forward with Firewise. Thank you as well to Darren and his team for support not only of SPAC but of the Firewise initiative. You've been engaged through the whole thing, and we're very appreciative of that and your team. HOA 1 completed its interviews last week, and they have put together a Firewise Advisory Committee, which will be approved at their board meeting Thursday. Rob Emmett will lead that group, and they're going to get started next week. With a handoff to each HOA, and the HOA is now moving forward independently, SPAC has fulfilled the Firewise goal that began in 2025. And I would just like to say again, thank you to Lynn, Sam, and Rob for a job exceptionally well done. I don't know if they're here today, but thank you to them. They just did a fantastic job.
Yeah. All right, Bob, take the mic.
Bob Andronowitz, Unit 25, Lot 26. I just prepared a short statement here. Last week, I had an email conversation with one of our board members. Several emails went back and forth. It became clear we were not going to reach common ground on the issue, which was fine. However, throughout this conversation, things were kept very civil and respectful. On my final email, as a courtesy, I copied our board president, so she was aware of the conversation and had an email string for her records. Less than an hour later, I received a reply to my email from the board president. I'd like to read exactly what that email was. Quote, "I would disengage from him now," in capital letters. "He is one of those members like SP, whoever that is, I'm sure that person knows, who is relentless. Stop responding." It's extremely clear I was not the intended recipient of this email, although it's very clear that it was about me. Am I relentless? Absolutely. And why is that? Because it takes being relentless to get anything accomplished in our community from the prior endeavors that I participated in. The next day, 2 additional emails from the board president, both of which at this time were intended for me. I again would like to read exactly what those were. Email number 1, quote, "Thanks. I think 2 rounds of email wars is quite enough on any subject. It never ends." Email 2, just a minute or 2 later, quote, "I want you both to stop this banter." This board has stated that they believe in transparency and they are encouraging resident feedback. I've had multiple conversations with other board members and was assured this is the position of the board, and the feedback doesn't necessarily have to be in agreement with the direction this board wants to take. So it's pretty clear that I want to reach out right now and ask real quickly, are there any other board members that don't believe in transparency and listening to the feedback of the residents?
Let me first speak and apologize to you for not being on my A game and misunderstanding the points you were trying to make. The lesson, I thought you were complaining about the dog park. And of course, the lessons I've learned from this is that I should not try to keep up with board emails after I've taken a narcotic pain medication. I will try to do better. I apologize.
I understand your apology, except in situations like that, it can be argued one way or another, and I'm not going to go there. But the reality of this is, I would really like to ask the remaining board members, in light of this, do you believe this sitting board president is actively behaving in a manner that is really responsible for the community and the residents? And that's the end of my statement. Thank you very much for your attention.
Bob, I'd like to address your basic question. And I say this as someone who, this is the last time I'll be up here. I'm resigning from the board because the amount of effort people like myself and Janine have had to put into this over the last year, it's just mind-boggling. Speaking about Janine, we couldn't hope for a more fair and balanced and reasonable board president. God knows I disagree with her on probably half of all the issues that come about, but eventually we and others have always been able to get to a reasonable compromise. I don't know what her drug situation was at the time, but if you've got any excess morphine, you can always lend me some. I can use it. Okay, codeine. When she apologized to you, I think you just need to take that as being sincere, okay?
And Brad, I do. I'm not here to debate the issue. I just wanted to bring it forth that all of us, residents, board members, Darren and his organization, have the responsibility to be courteous to one another. And it's, I believe, in our values. I mean, somewhere in all the documentation we have as a community, it's listed that we are to be respectful. I appreciate your drug problem, laughingly, but at some point you do also have the responsibility to say, hey, I'm coming off of surgery, I need to step back. So things like this don't come out. I've learned a long time ago, words that come out are really meaningful. In arguments, people have, no matter what, they're kind of subsided in our system, but given an opportunity, they jump out and present themselves. So these are the things that, as a resident, I don't care that you direct your board members and you don't feel appropriate and say, shut down this and do this. I take great offense, though, when those comments are pointed directly back at me. So I'll leave it here. There's no need to discuss this any further. I just wanted to bring it out in the open. The board can take the direction it'd like to do, but as a leader, I think you need to be scrutinized a little bit more than everybody else, because in our lives as leaders, that's just the way it works. I mean, we get looked at, we get scrutinized, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other comments? Come on.
Hi, good afternoon. Joe Coachella, Unit 48135. A lot of discussion before me. Brad, I actually hope you'll reconsider your decision. You're a fantastic asset to the board. I'd like to thank everybody up here.
No chance.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody up on the board. I think the last few years is the best direction I've seen this community going into. And I've been here 12 years, and I'm really pleased at what I see. And looking at the comments on the bulletin boards, it's just amazing, the diversity, and you can't satisfy everybody. But congratulations for where we are and what you're all doing. I applaud it tremendously. I got a question about the NOI, and I'm going to read. Payroll represents approximately 54% of the association's total operating expenses, making it the most logical area for adjustment. I agree. I think it's really fantastic. Brad, you alluded to, but I only think it's half of the equation. The other equation, I think, and I'm pretty sure you're going to address it based on what Brad has said, is from 2019 to 22, golf reserve requirements doubled, 94.47%. In 2022, from something Matt put in FTR, golf reserve requirements consume 46.5% of total reserve requirements. So golf is the other 46% of the 54 of the NOI.
So let me share some real soft but truthful numbers, okay? Our average run rate on total reserve requirements over the next 5 years, getting us through the rebuild of preserve, is in current dollars is about $4.5 million. In current dollars, once we're caught up on the preserve, our run rate, again in current dollars, goes down to about $4 million per year. The problem that people like Darren and our board and the recent previous boards have had to deal with is that we inherited something from Robeson that we had to play catch up. And Darren, about the time Darren retires, the hard work is going to be done, and the next COO is going to have it a lot easier. Golf, by its nature, if you look at HOA 1 in particular, where golf is the disproportionate part of their amenity set, after we get caught up with the preserve and some road issues and whatever, the piece of the ongoing run rate for reserves relative to golf is not going to be outsized from a competitive standpoint. We actually have more homes per golf hole, for example, than HOA 1 has. So that's actually a long-term cost advantage from that standpoint. Now the ranch, where presuming they don't build any more golf holes, they already have over 100 homes per golf hole. versus we have, I think it's 88, and I think you're testing my memory, which isn't as good as it used to be. I think it's 76 or 78 homes per golf hole at HOA 1. And, you know, in pursuing the vision that has been created by previous boards and subsequent boards have adopted, is we're to be the community of choice for active adult communities in southern Arizona, I guess. Well, part of that equation is that we have to be competitively from a fiscal standpoint, and the dues has to reflect the relative value of the amenities that we have and are maintaining. And we are going to be in a strategic advantage once we're caught up on the hole that was left to us back in 2018. And the good news is we're proving that we can keep up with the maintenance requirement and replace things before they get to the point where they're just not useful, whether it's a golf or a road or something like that. I literally could talk about these things for hours, and the problem I have with having conversations, Bob here, I think I spent 2.5 hours over a breakfast once going over these kind of details, and we didn't get to the end of it. And Bob's a sharp guy. We have to appreciate the fact that we have 51 miles of roads, and we have 36 holes of golf, and we have multiple restaurants. And this board, Darren, Terry, Ray, Bill, they all are sensitive to the balancing act of maintaining things at a high quality level as possible without breaking the bank, particularly during these next 5 years. I know I didn't address the question the way you were asking it, but hopefully I gave some color around it.
No, I appreciate that color. I just have one more thing. I have 2 items. I'll get back in line, but I have one more about golf, and I'm done with golf. I actually invited somebody down here to play tennis, and he's lived in La Paloma. And we played for a couple hours, and we started talking about golf. And I said, well, what do you pay for golf? Because he golfs all the time. He goes, $1,400. And I said, wow, that's really cheap. I can't believe it. Per month. And he said, no, that's per month. I don't quote me on the price, but I said, what? And so I guess my point is, I don't think we charge our golfers enough for the deficits that we're cumulatively running. And I know that will be extremely, extremely offensive to the golfers, but it's the truth, in my opinion.
So this is my last hurrah here, so let me talk about that, okay? If we didn't have a competitor that you could ride your golf cart 5 minutes and play there, okay, amen, okay? There's no way around that constraint on our pricing. I've heard Matt Cambick tell me that I think our base annual fee should be $5,000, and we're at what, $4,400 right now. But I'm not sure Troon would be comfortable with that because of the competitive situation. Now, my wife is an annual, I'm an annual. We pay approximately $9,000 a year. That $1,400 at La Paloma or $1,200 at Ventana, I can go down the list because I'm always looking for better options in my life. That's for a couple, so you need to adjust for that, number one. Number two, there are some aesthetic advantages to belonging to a members-only club, which La Paloma isn't necessarily, and certainly Ventana isn't. Ventana and Omni National kind of have the same, we're half resort, we're half private type of a situation. Our courses are in condition now to justify a higher price. The last point I would make, and this is why I wanted Matt to be the chair of the golf committee, we've created over decades a situation which necessitates or forces a lower realization rate in dollars per round play than HOA 1 has. Because way back when the quality of golf, because we were penny wise and dollar foolish, okay, Robeson, and soon after we took over from Robeson, HOA 1 had a competitive advantage of having more demand to play over there. And they made a very smart decision which has created a behavior which wouldn't be acceptable by our annuals over here. Their annuals get last priority based upon their activity in a 2-week cycle of play. They get less priority on the tee sheet lottery than the casual occasional golfer. And the casual occasional golfer pays approximately double the cost of playing a round of golf than what the actual realization rate is for an annual. Well, we went the other approach, and we give highest priority to annuals. I know it's not for short attention spans, okay? And we're actually at the point now for about 4 to 6 months out of the year where during the most desirable hours of the day, essentially the mornings at Mountain View, there's no more time. Now you'll see there's some empty spots or whatever, but that's because there was a frost delay or, you know, some such type situation. And what Matt's trying to figure out is how do we mitigate the conundrum that it took many, many years to create. And to whatever extent that we can mitigate and soften that problem, he'll come up with that. But he's also going to come up with, given the situation, you can't pull the rug out from under the annuals and lose $2 million in revenue to wait for 3 to 5 years for people to change their minds. What can we reasonably expect from the standpoint of revenue given the circumstances that have been created? And the reason we had a $400,000 miss on the revenue assumption last year was because the daily fee players, the revenue just wasn't there. Well, if you look during the busy time of the year, at least on the Mountain View course, there's no times available for them. So that's what this really hardworking, smart guy is going to figure out for all of us. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else questions?
Yes, there's a few more folks that want to talk,
I'm
right?
going to get in line. I got one more thing, but I'm going to the back of the line.
Okay. Matt, welcome.
Well, I never dreamt I was going to be on this side of the mic. Matt Cambick, Unit 49, Lot 147. I experienced a lot of things over 3 years sitting on that side of the table. Managed to fill this place up more than once or twice with people that wanted to hang me in effigy. Got a lot of scars from our social media. Back in August, we went through a very difficult challenge on this board, and we changed presidents. And I stood up at that time and I said, there was you remember a lady sitting right about there, Janine, that wanted to challenge the idea that we were going to have a first-year member of the board serving as the president. And when she started, I stood up and I endorsed you to be the president of our board. Now, Lord knows.
Sorry I disappointed you.
There have been plenty of issues across the folks that I served with, but I was sincere when I stood up that day and said you were the right person to be the president of the board at that time. This board re-elected you into that position at your organization meeting. You're still the right person to be the president. You're coaching to the board members to get out of email wars. I gave that same counsel myself when I had board members at war with one another over things. I didn't face it with residents that I'm aware of. And so my caution is, when you're drugged up, shut the computer off. But for the residents that are going to listen to this at home, you need to understand, Brad's done a very good job, and I'm a little disappointed today. Brad's done a very good job over his year plus on the board, letting the community know how strong of a financial position that we're in. Obviously, with the arrival of Darren and the professionalism that he's brought to our staff and their efforts, when I was listening to Terry's report today, at how much below the budget we were in executing the reserve fund this year, I'm assuming our projects got done. Apparently, they're coming in under the cost that was projected. And so, hang tough. The ass whoopings for board members never stop. For the members of the community, when men like Brad Nickum make a decision to leave the board, this is not in the best interest of our community. And you need to understand that these folks are doing the very best they can with the facts that are available to them to do the best things that are in the best interest of all of us. And they deserve our support and our respect.
Thank you, Matt. I think Maureen wanted to speak.
Maureen Spence, Unit 28, Lot 50. For 40-plus years, I've either observed boards or been on boards, and I have never, in all that time, seen a board, especially with the agenda you had today, to come out with 100% unanimous votes on everything. I think that speaks highly of our president, our CEO, and all the work of our board. And I'm really proud of you for working together and working things out before you get them here for a vote. Thank you.
Paula, I think you were the one who asked if I should be the president.
Paula Arnold, 44A, Lot 19. I am standing here to admit to being that person. I ask it more as a rhetorical question, but I am so happy that Matt stood up to explain all the reasons that you should have been the board president, and I am very pleased that you are the board president still. Again, I'm disappointed that Brad is going to resign, but I'm sure he has his reasons, and I'm sure the beatings. Oh, the beatings haven't worn you down?
You can never shut your mind off, and I've got other things in my life. It's as simple as that.
Okay. But I also want to tell you that as a board, that I have said to many of my neighbors and who I would like to believe are friends, that this board, the last board, was going in the right direction. And I am so happy that all of you took the same positions to continue the good work that is in motion. And I think that going forward, that this board is going to be very good. I wish you a speedy recovery and get off the drugs as soon as you can.
I'm down to a half per night now.
Just get on Tylenol.
Thank you, Paula. Anybody else want to get up and speak? Oh, yes, that's right. Here we go.
Coachella 48, 135. This is really quick, depending on Ray's answer. A year ago, Ray came down when they were doing Unit 48 and said they were coming back and going to do our road in a year. Ray, you guys coming back this year? End of my question. Brad, sorry to see you go. I agree with everything Matt said. One heck of a passionate guy. And thank you to everybody up here. Have a great day.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 3:38 p.m. Thank you.